still hear me?
Yeah.
Ohio, this is for you.
We could have written a lot of things in the script for this video. We could have looked back at our 8 national championships.
We could have pointed out that the last 2 times we won it all, that's 12 and 6-point underdogs. We could have called out all the people who said we didn't have a shot and didn't deserve to be here. We could have just stopped writing, but we didn't.
Listen to me right now. Everybody's eyes up here. This is real now. We've been punched, we've been hit, but because of that, we're tougher. Not only is Ohio watching, not only is the country watching, the world is watching this game. Where are we going to be when the world's watching? Be ready to make history and be ready to do something that's never been done in the history of college football.
We could have just stopped fighting, but we didn't. We've electrified empty stadiums.
Fought to find patience and perseverance. Pushed forward without promise of a future.
And still, our story writes on.
Let's get this thing we call Big Ten football started. Unbelievable. Touchdown. Picked up Wade. See you later. You want the champ, you're going to have to come and get him. Run the ball. Talk about a man that wants it.
A performance that's going to live forever in Ohio State history.
We made changes.
We faced challenges.
We seized second chances.
Now, we fight to write one final chapter. A chapter of champions.
Guy Bro Show, special edition tailgate show. And if that didn't get you excited for Ohio State versus Alabama, then allow us the opportunity to do so. This is the Buckeye Bro Show. I am Hot Wheels Travis Snapper alongside some familiar faces. You know them. You've seen them with me before. I have to start off first with the guy that's sitting right next to me. He usually joins me on the Perfect 10 Sports Show. His name, the King of the Hill, Ryan Hill. Also on Skype, we have Alex Bryan, who is usually with me on the Buckeye Bro Show, as well as Alder DeRose, who will be joining us later for an interview on things about the Big Ten. But first, we are going to start off with this show quite simply with how Ohio State got here. This is a big matchup for both these schools. It's a rematch from 2014 between both these schools. But first, how did Ohio State get here? Ohio State got here by going 6-0 in Big Ten competition. They beat Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game, and ultimately made it to the national playoffs. And then we had what happened last week.
Yeah.
And now here we are. So what happened last week that got them here?
Last week, the Ohio State Buckeyes were back in the college football playoffs in the Sugar Bowl, where they usually are, taking on the Clemson Tigers in a revenge game that Ohio State wanted so badly. We fought so hard to get back to this point, and Ohio State got exactly who they wanted. They got Clemson last week, and they got the revenge that we have been waiting over 365 days for. The Buckeyes just came out and throttled Clemson.
Absolutely. I personally was not expecting any of this to really take place. I had good hope that the Buckeyes were going to make it to this point. But, Alex, I had to ask you, were you expecting any of this? I know we had a lot of hope going into the Clemson game, but did you actually honestly believe that we would ever get to this point for Ohio State?
Obviously, there were some worries about that, especially when on the defensive side of the ball. So, we've went through a lot of adversity and trials and tribulations this year, and now we're to this point. And, I certainly didn't see what happened against Clemson coming into play, but, we made the best of that game. We won in a dominant fashion, and it showed the world what this Ohio State team is truly capable of when they play at their best. And that's why I have hope going into the night against Bama.
Can't argue with anything he said, especially, with some of the performances we've seen out of some of the players that have just been big for Ohio State down the stretch, especially in that Sugar Bowl matchup with Clemson. We saw Trey Sermon do what he does. We saw what he did in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern, breaking the single-game rushing record. Justin Fields, we'll talk about him plenty this day. We'll talk about what he did in the Sugar Bowl. We'll talk about what he can do in this game. And then just the defense in general, I think, put on a great performance. We look forward to them doing it again against Alabama. We'll have plenty of that to talk about. But first, we have a pre-recorded video. Alder DeRose is going to be joining us for an interview. But first, they put together a little package ahead of our show today, kind of talking about how we got here and the Big Ten in general, and we will cut it to that video right now.
I am Alder DeRose, your Big Ten correspondent, and I am at the Big Ten headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. On Monday night, The Ohio State University will play the University of Alabama in the college football playoff national championship game. If we look back to August of this year, Ohio State, representing the Big Ten in the college football playoff, was at a long shot. Even impossible when the Big Ten made the decision to postpone the football season. For new Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren, this is not what he envisioned for his first year on the job. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Big Ten voted on August 11th to postpone all fall athletics, including football. After that announcement, a series of events unfolded. First, Ohio State quarterback and Heisman favorite Justin Fields started a petition against the Big Ten that garnered over 302,000 signatures. Next, parents of Big Ten players protested in front of the Big Ten headquarters. 8 Nebraska football players actually sued the Big Ten, and to top it all off, the Big Ten commissioner had a conversation with the President of the United States to get the season started as quickly as possible. And then, after much debate and drama, the Big Ten presidents and chancellors announced on September 16th that they approved the 8-game schedule beginning the weekend of October 23rd, 24th, with the Big Ten championship game being played on December 19th. The Big Ten season finally got underway, but actually playing the games became extremely challenging as a resurgence in COVID-19 cases left many rosters depleted. A total of 13 games were canceled throughout the season because of COVID issues, and Ohio State only played 5 of their 8 scheduled games and were in jeopardy of not making the college football playoff. Eventually, Ohio State was allowed to play and won the Big Ten championship game versus Northwestern. On New Year's Day, they played Clemson in the college football playoff semifinal. They avenged their semifinal loss from a year ago behind 6 touchdown passes from quarterback Justin Fields. After such a tumultuous year and season for the Big Ten, on Monday night, when Ohio State plays Alabama, they have an opportunity to raise a championship trophy and put a huge exclamation point on this season. This is Ola DeRose, your Big Ten correspondent, coming to you from the Big Ten headquarters in Chicago.
Welcome, Alder DeRose, right here with us as we kind of break down, again, what happened in the Big Ten. And Alder, I want to ask you first, what your overall thoughts have been about the Big Ten, how this season was handled, how you feel about how we got here, and, you know, just a general idea of how you feel about this season in the Big Ten.
Okay, hey, thanks for having me on the show today. Go Buckeyes, right? But as far as overall, it was a difficult season for the Big Ten. August 11th changed everything, right? At that time, the presidents and the chancellors decided to make a decision to cancel the season. They wanted to get ahead of the pandemic. They felt like they were trying to be responsible. And what basically happened was they got criticized profusely. And even one of your own, Justin Fields, took it upon himself to start a petition, which garnered over 302,000 signatures to basically ask the Big Ten to reconsider. And, hey, we want to play football this season. Then after that, you had protests. You had players of Big Ten players protest at the Big Ten headquarters, as you saw in the video, which became a little contentious. You had Nebraska football players suing the Big Ten. You just had a lot of negative press for the Big Ten. Kevin Warren was going through a lot in his first season on the job. He took over for a legend, and in his first season, it became really hard for him and difficult. He got criticized on a daily basis. And then to top it off, he has a conversation with the President of the United States, who urges him to reconsider and to get the season started. So after reconvening, going through the science supposedly, the presidents and the chancellors on September 16th made the decision to move forward with the season. They decided to start the season the weekend of October 23rd and 24th with an 8-game schedule, conference-only schedule. But then the problem occurred is we went through another outbreak, right? So tons of positive tests, COVID-19 tests, and so many teams ended up being shorthanded. There was one weekend that the University of Wisconsin lost their starting quarterback, their backup quarterback, and their head coach, all in the same weekend. So with that being said, you ended up losing a lot of games. Overall, I think the Big Ten ended up canceling over 13 games. Your Buckeyes were in jeopardy of not making the Big Ten championship game because they only completed 5 games out of 8. And then, they were in jeopardy of not making the college football playoff because the SEC played 11 to 12 games. Big 12, other conferences were able to get in a lot of games. So there was a lot of scrutiny regarding Ohio State making the playoff. But the Big Ten relented. They used more clearer minds and allowed them to play in the conference championship game against, Northwestern from Chicago. It was a tough loss for us, but Trey Sermon went absolutely bananas. And so Ohio State pulled that out. They made the college football playoff, and then they proved everybody right by going to the playoff and beating Clemson, avenging their loss from last season. Justin Fields had a magnificent day. He proved his worth. He showed his leadership, I believe, in by starting that petition, by voicing his concerns that, hey, I want to play this season. And then he led his Buckeyes to victory. And now tonight they have a chance to set the world on fire, and the Big Ten has a chance to host in that championship trophy, which would be fantastic for the state of Ohio. And we need to defeat the evil empire. So let's go Buckeyes. Any questions for me?
Do you have any questions for him, Mr. Ryan?
Alder, you mentioned how this was Kevin Warren's first season as the Big Ten commissioner, and he went through a lot in his first year with COVID and everything happening. How do you feel he handled the adversity with the backlash from not only the players, the families of the players and then the fans of the Big Ten in particular?
Not well at all. I think he was a PR nightmare, right, for the Big Ten. It's unfortunate because everything I read about him is that he's a very stand-up guy, fantastic individual, and should represent the Big Ten well. But I think this was so unprecedented what happened that he was having a difficult time with handling everything. But hopefully, he will get a second chance. I hope he apologizes, and I hope he just moves forward and keeps moving the Big Ten forward in a positive direction. Because like even right now with the basketball season starting, we're already having issues. Certain schools have already had to cancel games, and this is just making it really difficult on everyone. So hopefully Kevin will get a second opportunity, and we'll make right with a lot of players and parents moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely think that at certain times the criticism of him was definitely unfair, especially given everything that took place. Nobody could have predicted this was going to happen. Nobody could have predicted how this season was going to play out. At first, I was on the side of caution with them as well. I thought it was a good idea to postpone when they did. They maybe jumped the gun a little bit. I understand that. But at the end of the day, I was perfectly comfortable with the way that they were handling the caution and just, taking a step back and realize what was going on. Now, once we got to the actual season, there were some things in place that I do think that they maybe could have improved upon. But,
right.
With the 21 days, with the testing and everything,
right?
Do you think that they handled that very well? I mean, the criticism is there, obviously, with the 21 days and obviously with the Ohio State. Do you think that the right decision was made when they allowed Ohio State to make it to the Big Ten championship?
Well, as far as that is concerned, absolutely. I think the 21-day, I think all of those protocols were fluid, right? You had to assess the situation. I think the Big Ten wanted to get ahead of the curve and try to create protocols and to show that they were ahead of the curve, but it became difficult when you were pushed up against the wall, right? So with the Ohio State thing, I absolutely believe they did the right thing. It wasn't Ohio State's fault for only being able to play 5 games. It was what it was with the 3 cancellations. But to your point, yes, Kevin was facing something that no one had to face before, and so I think he tried to listen to the science. I think there was a lot of people in his ear, and he tried to make the best decisions for the conference as a whole. But I think initially they wanted to show everyone around the country that the Big Ten was smarter than everyone else, right? And so they took the position of, hey, we're going to cancel the season before anybody else does. We're going to show that we're a leader. And then when the SEC, the Big 12, and other conferences said, hey, we're moving forward, we don't believe what you believe, then I think that made the Big Ten and the commissioner look bad.
I agree.
Absolutely.
All right, Alder, well, we thank you so much for joining us. Very insightful comments, very insightful talk. We are going to take a quick break, though. When we come back, we have a lot to break down. We'll talk about Justin Fields. We'll talk about Trey Sermon, some of the defensive matchups that are going to be taking place in this matchup. The Buckeye Breakdown was earlier today. They had a little something to say about this game as well. When we come back, though, we will have all of that for you right here on the Buckeye Bro Show, Tailgate Show edition.
Have you always dreamed about a career in sports broadcasting but aren't sure where to begin? Well, if so, then look no further than the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. Whether in front of the camera, on the microphone, or behind the scenes, you'll learn from a pro to be a pro in the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. You'll get hands-on training and live in-the-field experience at some of Ohio's biggest sporting events. You'll be the star of your very own webcast, and you'll get the opportunity to interview some of Ohio's biggest athletes. Call us today at 614-655-5250 or visit our website at beonair.com.
You have design ideas for t-shirts but you're not sure where to go? Go to Mojo Sports Gear. That's right, Mojo Sports Gear. At Mojo Sports Gear, you can get custom-made shirts. Whatever design you need, Mojo Sports Gear can provide it. Don't forget to grab a custom-made cap on your way out and rock the best headgear in the game. Give them a call at 614-864-6656. That's 614-864-6656.
In sports, you want to have a player that can get the job done right every time. A real all-star, somebody that's dependable and you can turn to when the game is tough. That player in the audio-video industry is the theater people. From setting up your home's Wi-Fi network and offices, conference rooms, to setting up home theater inside or outside, to setting up the systems to make your home run smarter and safer as well. The theater people can do it all with the quality of professionalism you can expect every single time. That isn't just a great all-around player, that is an all-star. That is why we are the leaders in audiovisual installation in Central Ohio. So call us at 614-604-6327 or check out our website at ttpcolumbus.com to figure out which products will fit you. And don't forget, amplify your personality with the theater.
The future of In the Moment and In the Know media is now. And the Ohio Media School's Next Level Education program is bringing you the know-how to make your creative vision a reality. Send your message, your music, your art, and your talent to the next level with the Ohio Media School.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Buckeye Bro Show Tailgate Edition. I'm Travis Napper alongside Ryan Hill with Alex Bryan waiting in the wings. And we are going to take a quick moment. The Buckeye Breakdown Show earlier today spoke with Brendan Gulag from Buckeyes Now SI to talk a little bit more about the Ohio State Buckeyes and this matchup between them and Alabama.
Down to Miami now, our mutual friend and a guy who's as talented as there is in this business, Brendan Gulick, visiting with us now from his palatial hotel room in Miami right now. Does great work for Buckeyes Now, Sports Illustrated. Brendan, good to see you, my friend. Just a quick atmosphere, does it feel any different, I guess, with the I'm sure there are a number of fans in attendance or down there wandering around, but does it have a different feel of any other big game you've covered right now?
Well, it's good to be with Buckeye royalty. You were the one that said you've been on the sidelines for 3 of these, and I know Greg played in a few of these games, so the feeling's mutual, guys. And obviously, it's a fun. It's just a fun day. There is a good buzz right now in this town, and I think a lot of it is because for really the first time this year, the Sugar Bowl and now the championship game, fans actually can attend. It's not just family and friends. I flew down on frankly, a pretty scarlet and gray heavy plane out of Cleveland yesterday. And, I just think there's a lot of people that are grateful to be here because it is this stage. And how can you not be excited to play for a national championship? But at the same token, I mean, this is a season that, quite frankly, almost never happened. The fact that Ohio State had so much taken away from them that they had to fight for to get back, that's part of the reason why I give them an edge tonight. I don't think they have quite had the same, or I should say, I don't think Alabama has had quite the same as Ohio State's gone through this year, even if they've played 5 or 6 more games. I just think Ohio State's got a little bit more to play for tonight.
And Brendan, I want to ask the obvious question of just logistics of the weather, because you're playing in South Florida, and the field. I'm assuming this is a grass field, which Ohio State has not really played on very much this year, if at all. So just talk about the weather as far as humidity, temperature, field. What's it?
Yeah, not bad. I just checked, 74 degrees right now. It's not going to get any warmer throughout the day. This is the best time of year to be in South Florida. If this game were being played 4 months ago, 5 months ago, might be pretty muggy. They're expecting a pretty good day today. There's some reasonable cloud cover right now, so I don't think that even throughout the day these guys would be baking under the sun. And obviously, the sun sets fairly early here in the Eastern time zone, so the sun won't even be out by the time they get to the stadium. It's a pretty comfortable day. And South Floridians, yesterday when I arrived and the temperature was 55, 56, I mean, they had hooded sweatshirts on and skull caps and it's clearly a different mentality down here. I don't expect the weather to be much of a factor tonight.
One thing that I found, and I mentioned the 3 national championship games, the last time Ohio State was in this position, and I remember being on the field after they knocked off Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and I was talking to players, Ohio State players, and some of them had tears in their eyes after they beat Alabama that night. And the thing that struck me was, how in the world are they going to get mentally recharged to come back on the field? Because it was almost as if they had won the championship that night. And I think we all know Oregon was no match, even though they did take an early lead in that game. But I don't think anybody thought for a moment that the outcome was going to be any different than what it was. You've talked to players, you've talked to coaches since the Clemson win. Do you get that sense as well, too, that they have emotionally overcome what was a huge hurdle to get over in beating Clemson?
It's a great question. Ryan Day has said time and time again, the goal was not to come back to beat Clemson. The goal was to come back to win the national championship. And so they, and frankly, the players have echoed that. Now, privately, how much of that emotion coaster did they go through to go back and beat the team that knocked them out last year? I think there's a lot to that. But I do think, it's not just gamesmanship or big talk. I really do think they expected to have a chance to play in this game today. All summer long. I mean, you think at some of the raw emotions that Coach Day put out there and saying that he thought this team was so special and that they just had to fight to have a chance to play. To me, it was pretty clear that they felt like they were good enough to win the national championship this year. And they just wanted a chance to prove that they could go do it. And obviously the truncated schedule forced some unique challenges. Justin Fields has taken all but 18 snaps at quarterback this year. So we think C.J. Stroud's the backup quarterback in an emergency. But, that's one of the things that really has been a challenge this year. There's a lot of little pieces to that. And, it's been a far from perfect season. But I do think the guys are living in this moment well enough. The depth and the thoughtfulness of their answers in a lot of the media sessions this week, there's a lot of respect on both sides for the opponent. In fact, some of the press conferences were a little boring because nobody really wanted to give the other side any bulletin board material, which is kind of a contrast to the last time Ohio State took the field. So look, I don't really expect an emotional letdown tonight. I think these guys will be ready to go.
And Brendan, we've got to ask the obvious question of there's been all these rumors flying. This team has overcome so much adversity through COVID and guys missing week to week to week. It seems like somebody's out. And there's, the rumors are flying about a certain position group that, again, is going to be ailing and not being able to play tonight. Do you have any further information on that as we get, now we're looking at about 7.5 hours away from kickoff?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't, but I can tell you that we will know for sure at approximately 7 o'clock tonight. That's when Ohio State's going to release the information. That they are extremely tight-lipped as to who's available and who's not, and they really haven't gone on the record saying anything about who has COVID or who doesn't. They try to protect the players' medical privacy in that way. But look, what I would say this: Ohio State is one of the true blue blood teams in America for a reason, and it's because they have elite players. They recruit the best players. They have the best coaches to get those guys ready to go, and they develop the best players in the country. Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State are the measuring stick in college football for a lot of reasons. And to me, while it would be frustrating if the Buckeyes were missing certain guys tonight, you kind of bank on their depth stepping in, because a lot of guys that don't start at Ohio State would start just everywhere in America. And that doesn't mean they're going to play perfect if they get thrust into tough situations. But Ryan Day's favorite saying all year is, a pair and a spare. You got to have 2 guys plus an emergency plan at every position on the field. And I'm sure that if Ohio State's dealing with some additional cases here this week, I'm sure they'll work through it and give it their best shot.
It's the Buckeyes. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide. Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now, Sports Illustrated. It's always a pleasure, my friend. I know you got a lot going on down there on this Monday, and we appreciate you taking a few minutes and stepping in with us here this afternoon to help us break down this game. Should be a lot of fun. Enjoy yourself out at the Hard Rock Stadium tonight. Should be a great football game. And as always, we appreciate your time. Good to talk to you, Brendan.
You bet. Look forward to it, guys.
All right. All right, and we want to thank Marty Bannister and Greg Fry, as well as Brendan Gulick, for just that impressive breakdown of what this game is going to look like. And I especially want to touch on something before we get to some of the other things we're going to talk about, on something that he said. Brendan said that, it's going to be a little bit rough to kind of get these guys a little hyped up because they might feel like they just won the national championship because they beat an opponent that they haven't been able to beat for 4 other attempts. And so it's really going to be interesting. What are your thoughts on how they're going to be able to rise to the occasion, not get a little bit too ahead of themselves? Yeah, they're feeling good, they're feeling cocky, but how do they control that into just a well-rounded game plan to beat this impressive Alabama team?
Absolutely. I mean, that is going to be a tall challenge for Ryan Day to get this team back up to par because that was such a big game against Clemson. Ohio State has struggled to get over the hump of Clemson, and now they finally did that, and that will take a lot out of a team. I mean, that right there feels like a national championship game, as it could have been. But I think if there's anybody I believe in, I believe Ryan Day will find a way to get this team together because they have been through so much adversity all year already with COVID. They didn't know if they were going to play, then they were going to play, and then they lost games throughout the season. They lost the game of the season. So they got all that they got bottled up, and I think they're ready tonight. I believe Ryan Day will have this Buckeye team ready and prepared to take on Alabama tonight. So,
and I'll ask Alex the same question. Alex, do you think this team is ready?
I certainly do. Certainly it is a challenge after a game like that to get remotivated. But Ryan Day seems to be such a master motivator, and he finds even different ways than even one Urban Meyer could to get this team fired up. This team is angry. And this team, as me and Travis talked about on the Buckeye Bro Show, seems very reminiscent of that 2014 team where they went into a game against Bama in the Sugar Bowl where they were told, hey, you don't have a chance to win this game. Thanks for coming. And, enjoy your trip here, but you're not going to come out of here victorious. And even being down 21-6 at one point in that game, they didn't waver. They didn't panic. They kept attacking and eventually broke through against that Alabama team. And those players will tell you, even to this day, that was their national championship. And they still had a game to play after that against a very talented Oregon team with the Heisman Trophy winner that year. So obviously Bama is a little bit of a different situation than Oregon, but it's still the same type of situation where you beat the team that you haven't been able to beat before. People are telling you you can't beat them, and you did, and now you got another game to play. I think Ryan Day's got this team locked in despite who we may be missing and any other factor. They fought all season, not just to beat Clemson and get over that hump, but they fought to get to this point, and now they're here. And it's like we said with the Clemson game. You won it, you got it. Well, now you're in the championship. You want to win it? Go get it.
I cannot agree more. So we beat around the bush quite a bit. We finally feel like we should probably talk about the game a little bit. So let's talk about the game. And the biggest elephant in the room is obviously Justin Fields and what his health is, how he's feeling after that just incredibly vicious hit in the Sugar Bowl with Clemson. It was ultimately a targeting call. His ribs, we assume, were beat up. No news has really still been brought out about what actually is wrong, what sort of injuries he's dealing with. We do know, I believe it's been confirmed, that he at least will be wearing quite a bit of extra padding. They plan to keep him pretty well, rested up and all sorts of things like that. So I'm going to start with Alex first this time. I haven't given him too much time to talk, but I'm going to start with Alex first this time. Where do you think, or where do you feel Justin Fields' health is probably at, and do you think that he's in good enough shape to go?
Yeah. I don't know if anybody has seen it, but he was on an Instagram live video playing a pretty fierce game of ping pong, moving around pretty nicely. Now, I get that's a little bit different from football, but it seems like he's pretty loose. I'm sure he's sore. Obviously, with a hit like that, you would be. But, I've read from BuckeyeScoop.com, which, by the way, is a great website for anybody who's wanting Buckeye news, that they are going to put him in some extra padding, but expect him to still run tonight when need be. they're going to let him loose. And as we saw in the Clemson game, even with being injured, he was still able to throw bombs. And I expect him to do just that tonight as well. So don't worry, Buckeye Nation. Justin Fields is going to be fine. The kid is an absolute warrior. And even at not 100%, he's going to give it his all. And this is really a chance for him to staple himself probably as the greatest Buckeye quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I don't know what cocktail they gave him at halftime, but I think they need to give it to him again before the start of this game. But I definitely agree with everything that Alex is saying. I think he'll hold up. You know, at this point, what else do you have to fight for? This is it. This is the last game. This is all you have to fight for. I would be shocked if he does not run. I want him to run. I want him to do it safely. I want him to do it smart, but I want him to run. How do you feel Ohio State can best not, do too much to really hinder him, but at the same time protect him to where he's not putting himself in too many situations to where he's going to get possibly hurt again?
Obviously, it's going to start at the offensive line. Ohio State's going to have to win the offensive line battle and keep Justin Fields upright that way. And hopefully he's going to have to make the reads a little quicker than normal because we do know Justin Fields tends to hold on to the ball a little longer than normal. So hopefully he can make those quick reads tonight. And, if he does have to actually scramble, because he's going to have to. Alabama's going to get in there. They're going to frustrate him and do everything they can to throw him off his game. And in that case, Justin Fields is going to have to be smart about it. He's going to have to scramble out of the pocket, and when he's making plays with his feet, he's going to have to know to take that slide or get out of bounds. Try not to take those big hits like he kind of did in that Clemson game. Don't spin into the linebacker. Let's try to avoid that tonight, and if he does, he plays smart like that, he's going to have a great game tonight. I believe in Justin Fields. I think he's ready for this game. He wants to play for his brothers. He said the love of his brothers is what kept him going in that Clemson game, and I think that's what's going to power him through this game because Justin Fields loves to play the game of football, and he loves his teammates here at Ohio State. So I have all the faith in the world tonight in Justin Fields to make it through this whole game healthy.
Yeah, key number one, no spinning. None. Just no.
We don't need the Braxton Miller tonight.
I would love that. Just, make sure that the player is nowhere near your ribs. And I have to say, the next person that we're going to be talking about, it's so fitting that, Alex, you chose that background behind you because we have to talk about the man that is smirking behind you, Mr. Trey Sermon, who in the last two games has put on one of the best performances out of a running back for Ohio State we've not seen in quite some time. The last one to really put on this kind of performances was Ezekiel Elliott. And really before that, it was a while. But can Sermon keep on preaching? I'll start with you, Mr. Ryan.
Yes, he can. This run right here reminds me of the 2014 National Championship run. We had the issue with the quarterback, and we saw Cardale come in and step up. We have our star quarterback right now with Justin Fields, but he is a little banged up. Like I said, I'm not really too worried about that tonight, but the big key to keeping Justin Fields also healthy is to run with Trey Sermon. I think Trey Sermon's going to have a big game. Ohio State can win that offensive line battle, and they will open up the gates for Trey Sermon to ball out tonight. This is just like Ezekiel Elliott back in 2014, where Ezekiel Elliott found his groove in the Big Ten championship game and then went on to tear up Alabama in the Sugar Bowl and then go on to do it again against Oregon. Trey Sermon is on that path, and he's doing even better than what Ezekiel Elliott did, and I didn't think that was ever going to be topped.
I didn't either.
That was such an impressive run, and we are seeing Trey Sermon do it again, and I look for him to have another big game, maybe even 30 carries again like he had against Clemson. That's how Ohio State's going to win this game. That will open up the doors for Justin Fields to not only take the top off, but stay healthy.
Yeah, I don't even think the question for me is can he continue his success? It's who's going to help him, because we are going to need to see some other people kind of step up in the running game. We had Mike Williams, who will not be there for the Ohio State Buckeyes this time. I believe he will. I don't know why he's designated as out, but he will not be there for the Buckeyes. But we still have quite a good running back core behind him, to where I think it's still going to benefit him. And obviously with Justin Fields, if he can get running and can get going, obviously that takes some pressure off of Sermon. But yeah, I look for Sermon to really just do the same over and over again. Alex, what are your thoughts on Trey Sermon? I know you got that picture behind you. Sing the praises of the one Sermon. Preach.
I mean, what more can you say about this guy? He's actually on a better pace right now than Zeke was in those 3 games. If he has around 200 yards tonight, he'll well eclipse Zeke in that 3-game run on those 2014 playoffs. And obviously, we still have Master Teague, who is said to be back from concussion protocol. So look for him to get some touches tonight as well. And yeah, Mayan Williams, I believe he's out for because of COVID, as well as some other guys, which is unfortunate because obviously he showed some promise in that Clemson game. But we still got other guys behind those 2 if we need to keep rotating backs. But look for a big 1-2 punch from Sermon and Teague. And obviously, like Ryan said, I think he's going to get about 30 touches tonight, Sermon is. So I fully expect this man to get his. He will feed as Zeke did before him. He'll tell you what time it is. He's hungry for this. And he's had to play Alabama before in a playoff. Trey Sermon has. Same as Justin Fields. Both of them have played. Well, Justin Fields played Alabama in an SEC title game. But both of them have bad experiences against Bama. So there's a little redemption factor for both of these guys when it comes to this game. They want Bama. They want to beat Bama. They want to right the wrongs of their past. And I think both have a tremendous shot to do so.
I agree. And actually, we talked about this earlier. How do we get these guys hyped up? How do we get them feeling like this isn't over yet? You still got one more game to go. I look for Justin Fields and Trey Sermon to hopefully they can tap into that. I want to see if they can tap into that for the other guys to get them an idea of, hey, this isn't over yet. We've faced this Alabama team before. We know what it's like. We know what they can do. Don't sleep on this team. I think that's a good way for this team to really get hyped up and to get them flowing on all cylinders to kind of get an idea of, hey, we need to get this thing done. Another moment that really needs to get going is the defense for Ohio State. They did very well against Clemson. A lot better than I'm sure a lot of people were even expecting. But there's one matchup that I'm sure a lot of Ohio State fans are very nervous for. I may have some hot takes about this one, but I'll let you guys go first. The matchup between Shaun Wade and Devontae Smith has been a hot topic leading up to this game. Can Shaun Wade control Devontae Smith? Can he contain him? We don't know if he can actually stop him, but can he do enough to contain him to really make a difference for this Ohio State defense to not just let Alabama roll all over us? Alex, I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on the matchup between Wade and Devontae Smith?
I mean, obviously this matchup worries me too. We've talked about it at length on the Buckeye Bro Show, which you can catch on Thursdays from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Score on Air Network. We've talked about it at length where we feel that Shaun Wade is out of position. This is a guy that's been in the slot corner position virtually his whole career at Ohio State, and they decided to move him to the outside. A lot of that has to do with the depth issues. Obviously, we lost some guys in the secondary via transfer, via legal troubles, which we won't get into. You name it, it happened to that position group in the offseason. So moving him to the outside, I believe, was always the plan anyway. But obviously, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him. And I've heard that Ryan Day has said, well, he's playing soft coverage by design. Well, it hasn't looked so pretty a lot of the time. I get the whole mindset behind it, but obviously against a receiver of this caliber, playing soft coverage probably isn't the right call, especially if you give him just a little too much room. He's going to juke you once, and he's going to be gone. But we also talked about this before, Travis and I did on our show. It's kind of like a Michael Jordan mentality where teams would approach the Chicago Bulls and say, okay, Michael's going to get his. Let's try to game plan for everybody else and see what happens. I think that's what they're going to do. I think you're going to see a lot of the defense geared towards just making Mac Jones uncomfortable all night and stopping Najee Harris. Because Devontae Smith, no matter what you do, he's going to get his. So as long as you can limit him to like around 100, 150 yards receiving and a couple touchdowns, that can win you a game. Just don't let him go off for any more than that, or else you're going to be in deep trouble. But I think what you're going to see is a lot of trying to stop the run like we did with Clemson, and certainly making Mac Jones as miserable as possible.
All right, well, 3 things. Number 1, great take. Number 2, you stole my thunder. And number 3, I love the shameless plug. Ryan, do you have anything else to say? He said a lot. Do you got anything else to say?
He sure did, and he was pretty spot on with everything. I know that Shaun Wade asked for this moment. He called and said he wanted to take on Devontae Smith. Well, guess what, Shaun Wade? From what it seems like, you're going to get your wish tonight. And I'm looking at you, Shaun Wade, right now. I want to see the best game this season that you've had. This is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the reason you came back to the Ohio State University to play with your brothers, and you wanted to win a national championship. So here we are. I think Shaun Wade's going to come out and have one of his best games of the season. I'm looking forward to this matchup. It's going to be tough. As Alex said, just contain him as much as you can. You're not going to stop Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is a special talent. He's a Heisman winner for a reason. Ohio State does have a neck for stopping Heisman winners. So we're looking forward to that matchup tonight, and just contain him to roughly around 100 yards. I don't want to see the 150, as Alex said, but if he does get to that moment, as long as you're stopping the run, it'll be fine. But this is going to be an interesting matchup that I'm not really looking forward to tonight, but I think Shaun Wade can step up to the plate and handle his own.
And that kind of leads into our last topic before we really go to break, is the Ohio State defense versus the Alabama offense. And I couldn't agree with you guys more that the big, and I agree especially with Alex, and like he said, him and I talked about this forever. The big thing for me is I don't really feel like Devontae Smith really has to be stopped. Yes, you want to contain him. I don't want to see him going off for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. I get that. But at the end of the day, like he said, it's the Jordan mentality. Make everybody else beat you. It doesn't matter what Devontae Smith can do. It matters what everybody else can do. If Najee Harris is beating you, that's a problem. If Jalen Waddle, who may play, is beating you, that's a problem. If Mac Jones is beating you with his legs, that's a problem. I don't expect very many of those things to really take place, but it matters because Devontae Smith is going to get his stuff. He's going to get his yardage. He's going to get a touchdown or 2, maybe even 3. But at the end of the day, I know.
Hope not.
Hope not. But at the end of the day, it really matters what everybody else does. Because if you can stop the majority of the Alabama offense, you've won the game. But on the flip side of that, the Ohio State offense versus the Alabama defense, I think is just as much of a wide gap as the Ohio State defense and the Alabama offense. What do you guys think? I'll let Alex go first again. What do you think about how Ohio State's offense is going to fare against Alabama's defense?
Well, 2 more things before I get into that. A lot of people forget that Devontae Smith was the one that caught the game-winning touchdown for Alabama in 2017. So he's been around a while. He's just been kind of a hidden gem in the last couple years. And 2, I heard from people on BuckeyeScoop.com that Waddle is probably going to be playing tonight. It's going to literally be a game time decision. So that's unfortunate, but I'm sure the coaching staff has prepped for both scenarios accordingly. But as far as Ohio State's offense against this defense, a lot of people don't realize that as I don't want to say average, that because obviously Clemson's defense was really good, but they did have some weaknesses. They had similar weaknesses to what they did last year, especially when it came to the secondary. But they actually were 25th in passing yards allowed this year, which was kind of surprising. But you saw when they played against better teams, they tended to give up a lot of points. So it wasn't really a surprise that we were able to do as much to their defense as we did. It just was surprising that we got over 600 yards of total offense against them. But as far as Alabama's defense goes, their passing defense is even worse. They're about on the level of ours. I believe the last time I looked, they were 77th in passing yards allowed. So we're going to get ours through the air. As long as Justin Fields doesn't make mistakes, he's going to be fine. And a lot of people seem to forget that Nick Saban has a really hard time of planning for mobile quarterbacks, dual threat guys. He had a problem with that when it came to Carl Joe Jones, even though he wasn't very mobile, but he was mobile against them because they didn't see that coming. You've seen it in the past with a lot of other quarterbacks he's faced as well, like Deshaun Watson. It's just always been an issue for him and his staff to prep for these dual threat quarterbacks. So, Justin Fields, he's going to be able to get his through the air. Olave and them are going to be able to get theirs through the air as well. I expect both of them to get over 100 yards receiving tonight. But we're going to obviously have to open up the run game to make that happen. If Trey Sermon isn't getting going and we're basically forcing ourselves only to throw, well, Bama's just going to adjust accordingly, and then all of a sudden we're not going to be able to do anything against them. So Trey Sermon has to get his. They have to be off balance from the run game, and that's when we're going to hit them in the mouth going deep through the air, or even maybe just hitting something over the middle that goes for a lot of yards. But I definitely like our odds against Bama's defense more than I did Clemson's, and I said that going into the playoff. I said I wish we got Bama first because their defense is a lot more vulnerable. You saw that against Florida. You saw that against Ole Miss. Look for Ohio State to run similar concepts offensively to what those two teams did, and we'll have a lot of success if we can get that going. But I definitely like that matchup for us tonight.
I mean, I don't have any really arguments with that for sure.
I hope not.
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, I think this is a good matchup for Ohio State. I really do. And I want to ask you if I'm totally off base or not. I think this Ohio State offense is really getting underappreciated is the right word I was trying to find out. Because, yes, you have Devontae Smith. Yes, you have Najee Harris. I get that. And obviously we hadn't seen this Ohio State offense really get clicking until the last two games. But now that we're seeing it in full force, and I do believe this is the full force offense of Ohio State, I mean, look at the wide receiver core of Ohio State. Should they get more hype? Because I feel like they should get more hype.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This offense that Ohio State has is close to unstoppable as you can almost get. Like Justin Fields, Trey Sermon, those two lead the charge in the backfield. And then you got Chris Olave out there who can easily take the top off you. He can spread the field out. Garrett Wilson. We're forgetting Jackson Smith and Jigba. If he's active tonight, I think he is. I mean, he's a great freshman talent. We got Julian Fleming. There's multiple people who can play the wide receiver position for Ohio State. So I think Ohio State has one of the best offenses. Alabama's defense has not really faced an offense of this caliber besides Florida. Florida had a fantastic offense, and we've seen what they did to Alabama in the SEC championship game. So I'm really excited to see this Ohio State team take on this Alabama defense because Ohio State, as long as they win at the offensive line position and they open up with Trey Sermon, that's just going to open up the gates for Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And we're going to see Chris Olave get loose in the backfield, maybe even Jamison Williams taking that speed and taking off the top against Alabama's defense. So Alabama's defense doesn't scare me. Clemson's defense scared me more than Alabama's defense. And I like the matchup we have. So
I do too, honestly. And, we talk about the wide receivers, the tight ends even.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Ruckert could go off. We saw it in the Clemson game. Me, this Ohio State offense is very much overlooked. And I really think that they are going to show a lot of people just what they are made of whenever they face off against Alabama. We're going to go to break really quick. When we come back, we're going to talk quite a bit more about this game. We're going to focus on who's going to win in the trenches. This is the first time these two teams are actually meeting in the championship. They've met once before, but this is the first time they've met together in the championship. This isn't Clemson or Alabama Part 5 or whatever number it's up to at this point. But when we come back, we will have all of that for you right here on the Buckeye Bros Show, Tailgate Edition.
Have you always dreamed about a career in sports broadcasting but aren't sure where to begin? Well, if so, then look no further than the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. Whether in front of the camera, on the microphone, or behind the scenes, you'll learn from a pro to be a pro in the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. You'll get hands-on training and live in-the-field experience at some of Ohio's biggest sporting events. You'll be the star of your very own webcast, and you'll get the opportunity to interview some of Ohio's biggest athletes. Call us today at 614-655-5250 or visit our website at beonair.com.
Do you have design ideas for t-shirts but you're not sure where to go? Go to Mojo Sports Gear. That's right, Mojo Sports Gear. At Mojo Sports Gear, you can get custom-made shirts. Whatever design you need, Mojo Sports Gear can provide it. Don't forget to grab a custom-made cap on your way out and rock the best headgear in the game. Give them a call at 614-864-6656. That's 614-864-6656.
In sports, you want to have a player that can get the job done right every time. A real all-star, somebody that's dependable and you can turn to when the game is tough. That player in the audio-video industry is the theater people. From setting up your home's Wi-Fi network and offices, conference rooms, to setting up home theater inside or outside, to setting up the systems to make your home run smarter and safer as well. The theater people can do it all with the quality of professionalism you can expect every single time. That isn't just a great all-around player, that is an all-star. That is why we are the leaders in audiovisual installation in Central Ohio. So call us at 614-604-6327 or check out our website at ttpcolumbus.com to figure out which products will fit you. And don't forget, amplify your personality with the theater.
The future of In the Moment and In the Know media is now. And the Ohio Media School's Next Level Education program is bringing you the know-how to make your creative vision a reality. Send your message, your music, your art, and your talent to the next level with the Ohio Media School.
Have you always dreamed about a career in sports broadcasting but aren't sure where to begin? Well, if so, then look no further than the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. Whether in front of the camera, on the microphone, or behind the scenes, you'll learn from a pro to be a pro in the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. You'll get hands-on training and live in-the-field experience at some of Ohio's biggest sporting events. You'll be the star of your very own webcast, and you'll get the opportunity to interview some of Ohio's biggest athletes. Call us today at 614-655-5250 or visit our website at beonair.com.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Buckeye Bro Show Tailgate Edition. I'm Travis Snapper alongside Alex Bryan, and joining us now is Deshaun Isaac, who will tell us point blank who is going to win in the trenches between these two big powerhouse teams.
Hey, thank you for having me here, Travis. To me, it really will come down to how Ohio State and Alabama are pretty much very similar. They're very similar teams. They're very, this is the weird part about them. You can literally look at both teams and point out they got the same type defense. They both have the same objectives: protect Mac Jones for Alabama, protect Justin Fields for Ohio State. But I really think Ohio State's offensive line is a lot better, although they really need to be a lot better tonight because Justin Fields cannot take a hit like he hit last game. And you got Alabama who if you let Mac Jones loose, we all know what he can do. He can score some touchdowns here. So it's going to be, so for me, these two teams are very even in the trenches.
I agree. I do think that Ohio State has a little bit bigger advantage in the trenches simply because we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but when you look at Alabama's offense as a whole, yes, they have Devontae Smith. Yes, they might have Jalen Waddle, which is looking like it's going to be pretty likely that they do. But they also have Najee Harris. But at the end of the day, Ohio State has Trey Sermon, Justin Fields, Chris Olave, you know, the wide receiver list goes on. And the reason I bring up Justin Fields especially is because, like you said, Justin Fields can beat you with his legs. Mac Jones cannot do that. And at least if he can, it's been hidden to the rest of the world because we've not seen it over the last course of games that Alabama has played. He's not a mobile quarterback. He's an incredible quarterback, don't get me wrong, but he's not a mobile quarterback, which is why I think that Ohio State has an advantage when it comes to the trenches, because if you're Ohio State's defense, you can game plan for that. You can focus on that. That means that you don't have to get too cute when you're trying to get pressure on Mac Jones. You don't have to keep all eyes on every facet of the offense. You're focused squarely on Najee Harris and Mac Jones. That's it. And really, not even really Mac Jones. You're focused on Najee Harris, making sure that he's not breaking away for a run, and you're focused on Mac Jones to make sure that he's not getting away a pass without it being, you know, uncomfortable, just a little bit off, which is why I think that Ohio State has the advantage. But Alex, break the tie. Who do you got? Who has the advantage when it comes to who's going to win in the trenches?
What a lot of people may not know is that Alabama is going to be without their Remington Award winner Landon Dickerson in at center. That's a huge loss for them, and I know that we'll probably have Tommy Togiai out and Tyreek Smith out on the defensive line tonight, which is looking pretty likely. But this is the one position group on this entire team where if we're missing players, have some faith that the backups are going to be just as good, because this is Larry Johnson's unit, everybody, and this is the GOAT of defensive line coaches of all college football history. I mean, let's face it, the guy's put out 3 of the last 5 defensive rookies of the year in the NFL. I mean, what more of a resume do you need? This guy's getting people paid in the league. He's breeding monsters on the defensive line. Zach Harrison's going to be back in. I heard Tyler Friday is going to be back available finally. Look for Jerron Cage to make an impact on the defensive line. And them not having Landon Dickerson at center, that's going to be huge, especially on getting pressure on the inside of that offensive line for Alabama. And I've talked to some Bama fans, and they are not very confident in their replacement for him. They say he's nothing to write home about. So I look for us to have a huge advantage there, even without Tommy Togiai and Tyreek Smith. On the flip side, obviously we have a very, very good offensive line unit that's basically underestimated, because the Joe Moore Award for Best Offensive Line went to Alabama. This is a very mirrored image of that LSU team a year ago, which I felt that Ohio State could have beaten had they gotten the opportunity to. But this is a very mirrored image of that team. And if you want to beat the best, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I think on the flip side of things, with our offensive line, I think we have a lot more physical athletes than they do on their defensive line, to be perfectly honest with you. This isn't one of those Bama defensive lines that really sticks out to me, especially like ones in the past have. They've had some absolute animals in the past on the defensive line, but I just think we have the advantage there as well. So if they can play any type of game like they did against Clemson and keep Justin Fields clean back there, he's going to go off tonight. And I want to point out one thing here real quick when it comes to the offense. College Football XM said Alabama ranks 127th out of 127 teams when it comes to passing defense versus the tight ends. They have given up over 600 yards to tight ends, over 50 catches, and 36 first down conversions. Their linebackers are a liability in pass coverage. So look for a lot of Jeremy Ruckert and the rest of the tight ends tonight, and Luke Farrell, of course, to make a huge impact on this game, just like they did against Clemson.
Well, there you have it. I mean, I think the advantage does go to Ohio State, but this is the first time that these two teams are going to be meeting, at least in the championship. Alabama's been here way more times than we want to count, probably even want to admit. But
right,
we were here in 2014, 2015.
In fact, I would say this. Even though Alabama might be comfortable with it, might actually feel like this is a possibility that Ohio State this is a season where Ohio State has felt like this is their time. This is our time. This is our era. This is what we need to do to be out here. Remember, the Big Ten said we weren't even expecting to be here. But here they are. They're here for being one of 2 teams that could win a title tonight. Now, Alabama, they have a lot of respect for Ohio State here. And that is something that going into this, both teams understand where they're coming from, and they all have the same build. They're ready to play some football, and they're ready to go for 60 minutes and longer if necessary.
Alex, what do you think?
This game's going to come down to 2 things. Obviously, we already touched on one, that being the trenches. Whoever wins that is definitely going to have a huge advantage. But obviously, the other thing is which pass defense is going to get shredded the most. This game, hopefully, will be very reminiscent of the Alabama-Clemson games of 2015 and 2016, where they were very high scoring back and forth. I mean, unless Ohio State wants to go and blow them out too, that would be great. But any other thing like us getting blown out, hard pass on that. But whoever's secondary gets shredded the most is definitely going to be that, along with the trenches. That's going to be the 2 huge keys here. And obviously that plays into which quarterback is going to play better. And a lot of people are high on Mac Jones. Obviously, he was the top 3 for the Heisman. But Justin Fields is being very, very disrespected, and he has been all season. And especially with the Heisman voting, him being so low on the list. But he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's still hungry. And like I mentioned earlier, he's had to play against Bama before, and Bama fans have given him a bad rap for a couple years now because of his one miscue in that game when he finally got put in. So he has a lot to prove, and this is also for his future too, with draft stock and everything. So I thoroughly expect him to outplay Mac Jones. And he's going to get it to a lot more targets than Mac Jones is tonight. Obviously, Mac Jones is probably going to rely primarily on Devontae Smith. If he has Jalen Waddle, that'll be thrown in the mix. But let's not forget, Jalen Waddle hasn't played a game in well over a month. So he might be a little rusty, and we can take advantage of that as well. But, Sean Wade, I can't say enough. Please, man, please play the best game of your life tonight. Be that lockdown defensive back that we know you can be, because we really need you to step up tonight.
Can't argue with that sentiment. I second that sentiment, in fact.
Yeah, I got something to add on there.
Go right ahead.
That Alex pointed out here. With Ohio State, it really do come down to if they can go into the trenches and do what they need to do here. For me, I feel that Ohio State has the abilities to do what they need to do, the players to do it. But the only problem and the only thing I have with Ohio State is how's their secondary going to be? Because their secondary has been questionable. And I feel if Mac Jones can get deep into that secondary and do what he needs to do there, that's my only concern about Ohio State here. I know they're going to do well on the offensive and defensive line. I know they got a great wide receiver. I know they got a great running back. I know our quarterback is elite and everything. The only question all season has been, how about that secondary? And that's my only concern tonight about Ohio State. If that secondary doesn't show up, it's going to be a long night for us.
I want to say this too, because I hope that Bama players have the same mindset that some of these Bama fans do when it comes to our wide receivers, because we got some Bama fans saying Ohio State's receivers don't seem crazy special to me. They're good, but they're nothing Bama hasn't seen. And, Florida's receiving core is better than Ohio State's, decidedly. I'm not convinced that Ole Miss and possibly North Carolina have better units, too. So I hope that the players have that same mindset so Wilson and Olave can have about 400 yards total between them.
Can we say shots fired?
Wow. Can you ask Dabo Sweeney how that felt?
He's got a good point. Ask Dabo Sweeney how he feels about those comments.
let's ask Nick Saban's daughter how she feels about it.
Also a good point. Also a good point. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think you're onto something. But I feel like there's an easy way to combat that is we kind of touched on it with Sean Wade. He can't play too soft coverage, but I do think that's the way that this Ohio State team plays well on defense. You need to play somewhat soft coverage. You cannot let them go stride for stride with you because it's just not going to work. Now, at the same time, you do not want to let Devontae Smith have too much freedom because, like you said, Alex, he's going to cut one way and you're done. But at the same time, I think it is best for this Ohio State defense to play what's in front of them because that's how they play best. Gang mentality when it comes to tackling and coming downhill to tackle. I think they're better when they are letting the plays come to them. Not necessarily giving up too many big plays, not necessarily letting people gash the defense, but when they're letting players come to them, I feel like that's where they started to play best against Clemson, when they let the wide receivers come to them, when they let Travis Etienne come to them, when they let Trevor Lawrence just come to them. They didn't try to force anything too much. Now, you want to obviously force Mac Jones to be a little bit uncomfortable when it comes to the defensive line, but when it comes to that secondary, just play what's in front of you, and I think they'll be fine. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, one more quick break, and when we come back, we'll have just a few more topics to touch on before we get to our score predictions and we get you guys to the game because that's what's most important. So this has been the Buckeye Bro Show, Tailgate Edition. I'm Travis Hot Wheels Napper. Thank you so much, Deshaun, for joining us and all those insightful topics, insightful takes. We look forward to it. We're going to get Ryan back in here and see what he's got to say. So we will be right back.
Have you always dreamed about a career in sports broadcasting but aren't sure where to begin? Well, if so, then look no further than the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. Whether in front of the camera, on the microphone, or behind the scenes, you'll learn from a pro to be a pro in the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. You'll get hands-on training and live in-the-field experience at some of Ohio's biggest sporting events. You'll be the star of your very own webcast, and you'll get the opportunity to interview some of Ohio's biggest athletes. Call us today at 614-655-5250 or visit our website at beonair.com.
Do you have design ideas for t-shirts but you're not sure where to go? Go to Mojo Sports Gear. That's right, Mojo Sports Gear. At Mojo Sports Gear, you can get custom-made shirts. Whatever design you need, Mojo Sports Gear can provide it. Don't forget to grab a custom-made cap on your way out and rock the best headgear in the game. Give them a call at 614-864-6656. That's 614-864-6656.
In sports, you want to have a player that can get the job done right every time. A real all-star, somebody that's dependable and you can turn to when the game is tough. That player in the audio-video industry is the theater people. From setting up your home's Wi-Fi network and offices, conference rooms, to setting up home theater inside or outside, to setting up the systems to make your home run smarter and safer as well. The theater people can do it all with the quality of professionalism you can expect every single time. That isn't just a great all-around player, that is an all-star. That is why we are the leaders in audiovisual installation in Central Ohio. So call us at 614-604-6327 or check out our website at ttpcolumbus.com to figure out which products will fit you. And don't forget, amplify your personality with the theater.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, to the Buckeye Bro Show Tailgate Edition. I'm once again Travis Napper alongside Ryan Hill, and of course we have Alex Bryan on standby to give us all his great, amazing thoughts on how this game is going to go. The last thing I want to talk about before we get to our final predictions and how we think this game is going to play out is the coaching matchup. Ryan Day versus Nick Saban. Arguably the GOAT when it comes to college football coaching versus the new guy. Which, you know, he's got 2 years in, so he's not necessarily a new guy, but you get the idea. You have to imagine Alabama's got the advantage here, right?
Kinda.
Right?
Kinda.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Alex. Alex, is this as big of a gap as there is when it comes to coaching? Does Ryan Day have anything on Nick Saban that he can use? Is it really just Nick Saban's world and we're all living in it? Or can Ryan Day pull off something that not a lot of people can?
Oh, it wasn't that long ago that we had a Well, he wasn't that new, but we had a guy who, by the name of Dabo Sweeney, I think we all know him by now, who went up against Bama in a title game, lost his first try, but then came back the next year, got another shot at Saban and took him down. So Saban is beatable, and Dabo has shown it twice that he's beatable. Obviously, yes, this is arguably the GOAT, especially if he wins Natty tonight. He'll have more than Bear Bryant. But he's already the GOAT in my eyes. But what I've said about Ryan Day since the beginning is this. He's going to get a shot at college football's best. And he will be judged, obviously, what he does against the team up north. That's a given. But what he does against the best of the best when he gets the chance to do so. And to be honest, he outcoached Dabo all last year, too. It just, some poor officiating and some other unfortunate circumstances made that game turn into a loss for us. And we hurt ourselves, too. I won't give us a pass on that. But he got another shot at Dabo, outsmarted him once again, and to a whole nother level to where he blew him off the field. I think, there's obviously a gap when it comes to who Saban is and what he's accomplished versus Ryan Day. But when it comes to just sheer coaching and the coaching staffs alike, this is almost an even matchup. I obviously would still give the slight edge when it comes to head coaches to Saban. But if you go overall coaching staff, it's about as even as it gets. I mean, we got some of the best. They got some of the best. It's going to be a heavyweight matchup there. And let's not pretend like Urban Meyer hasn't been in Ryan Day's ear on how to prep for this guy either. He has. It's got to be no secret to anybody. He's probably given Ryan Day a pretty solid blueprint to go off of on what he should do against Saban. And I'm sure Ryan Day did his own thing, but you don't get advice from Urban Meyer and not take at least some of it. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's as much of an advantage as people want to make it out to be. And if Ryan Day really wants to prove himself, he's already taken down one of college football's best, go ahead and take down the other one. And guess what? You're right up there in the conversation with both of them at that point.
Ryan, your thoughts next, sir?
Oh, on paper, when you look at this, obviously Ryan Day does not compare to the stats that Nick Saban has put up, but obviously we have a bigger sample size of what we have from Nick Saban as a very small sample size of Ryan Day. But I really love what Ryan Day has come and done here at Ohio State. He's came in, he took over a program that Urban Meyer kind of built up. Like, it was already a great program, and Urban Meyer took us to the next level. And I look from what it looks like, Ryan Day's about to take us to another level that Urban didn't get us to. So I really love what Ryan Day is doing here. And on paper, yes, it's a big mismatch, but I think it's a lot closer than what people are giving it credit to. But in the end, obviously Nick Saban's going to get the edge here. He's arguably the greatest coach in college football of all time. So I'm looking forward to the matchup tonight. As Alex stated, he went up against Dabo, and he technically, in my opinion and Alex's opinion here, he outcoached Dabo both games. It was just a little bit of miscues there on the offensive side with the refs, and then going for that punt last year was not a smart move on his part. I think that's probably one of his worst coaching decisions he's made. But outside of that, Ryan Day has been spectacular at Ohio State, and I'm excited to see, because I think after tonight, if he does win, he's right up there with these guys, if not the head coach in the NCAA.
I think the funny thing is once Ryan Day came into the fold, the commentary was, oh, well, he's coaching Urban Meyer's team. To me, that hasn't even mattered. Because I think he's done things that not even Urban Meyer could do with this team, where he's gotten them, in my opinion, a little bit more amped up, a little bit more fired up, and a little bit more in control whenever they're facing off against big opponents. I feel like he's gotten them a little bit more centered and focused than in teams past. And especially with the second half adjustments, Urban Meyer was very good at second half adjustments, but I almost feel like Ryan Day is on a second level when it comes to second half adjustments. We've seen it in the Northwestern game. The adjustments that were made not only on offense but on a defensive level to get that game back under control for Ohio State. It still wasn't pretty, but at the end of the day, they made the adjustments necessary to get the win. And then on to Clemson, they made the adjustments to not let that game get out of hand for them. I really feel like Ryan Day is very good at seeing what sort of adjustments need to be made, and give credit to the other coaches as well, for sure. But I think that in itself is going to keep him in a good spot up against one of coaching's best when it comes to college football. I think he's got the, not advantage, but he's got a good sample of what he needs to do to get there. And like you said, and like Alex said, he's got people around him he can turn to. Obviously, Urban Meyer, at the end of the day, you can turn to him for ideas on what all you're going into. And some of the coaching staff on Ohio State, I'm sure, can give him some kind of advice on just how to kind of coach this game. But at the end of the day, Ryan Day has to do it himself, and I think he's going to do that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the last possible thing to talk about. Who wins the game? Who? Woo! Little wrestling humor there for you. But I'm going to start off with Alex because I like doing it because he is my original Buckeye bro. And so I feel I have to get his take first. Final predictions, sir. Final thoughts. Lay it all on me. What's going to happen tonight in this game between two behemoths?
This is what happened, Travis. This is what's going to happen. The Ohio State Buckeyes are going to reclaim what has always been rightfully theirs, the national championship. We're gonna get a twin sister for the one we already have in Columbus. Finally, after all these years, it's going to happen. And Ohio State is going to take down the mighty empire that is Alabama once again. And Ryan Day is going to get to hoist this for the first time of hopefully many times, because I believe he will win multiple natties for us in the future. But for right now, getting your first over Nick Saban is the best possible thing you could ask for, en route of beating down Dabo as well. We're getting the natty tonight, and Ohio State's going to win 49-38.
The only thing that was missing from that is you should have said, "So I decree," because you're wearing the crown. So, I mean, King Buckeye has spoken clearly. Ryan, your final thoughts, sir. How do you feel this game's going to go? What does Ohio State need to do to make this? We've already kind of touched on that for the most part, but how do you feel this game's going to go?
I think it's going to be a downright dogfight tonight. This is going to be a battle of the college football's best that we have to offer here. We got the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on Alabama, the top dog in the Big Ten, the top dog in the SEC, Ryan Day versus Nick Saban. We can go on and on. We've talked about this so much. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm ready to watch the game tonight. But I love what that guy Alex said. He was spot on. I got the best damn number 11 team in the country. The Ohio State Buckeyes are going to bring home the college football national championship back to Columbus by the final score of 49-38. I love Alex's pick, and I'm going to take it.
I like that you called him that guy. But,
yeah.
You know,
well, he's out there in the land. He's not
fair
here
enough,
with us.
but also that's a sexy shirt. I like that
Thank
shirt.
you.
I love being the first number 11 national champion in college football history. That's great.
It is. It would be history. Not only would Ohio State be the first number 3 team to ever win the national championship, but they would also be the best 11 ranked team to ever win and the best damn number 11 team in the land. I could not agree with you guys more. I think this is Ohio State's game. I'm not going to say that. We're not going to sit here and act like this game is going to be anywhere close to an easy game for Ohio State. I do think that they have a lot of momentum coming into this game. But at the end of the day, Ohio State, I think, is definitely going to get it done. Now, they're going to have some struggles. It is reported that Blake Hobbill is out for this game. He will not play for Ohio State against the rolling tide, the Crimson Tide. Roll Tide and Crimson Tide. I got messed up.
We don't want to say that.
Losing my mind here.
We won't need him if we just
I'm excited. I'm pumped up. This game just needs to happen. I'm excited, man. But at the end of the day, I think no matter what, and we don't know, I haven't seen anything else about any other players that are out. We just know that Blake Hobbill is not going to be there for Ohio State. There was rumors that Togi wasn't going to be there and Tyreek Smith. I don't know if those are official just yet. We do know that the Blake Hobbill is official, but all in all, I think the Ohio State has the formula to get this done. I think that they will get it done. What was your prediction again?
Ohio State 49, Alabama 38.
Alex had the same one. I'm going, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but my nickname is Hot Wheels, so we're going to go with a hot take from Hot Wheels. 49-32. That's right, I'm insane, so just deal with it.
One more thing, real quick.
Go right ahead, sir.
The only time in the college football playoff era the team not wearing white has won was the first year when we won it against Oregon in our red jerseys. Every other time, the white jersey team has won the national championship in the college football playoff era. And guess what jerseys we're wearing tonight?
And actually, I found another interesting stat, and I tried to use this stat on the Buckeye Bro Show originally, but I messed it up because I couldn't remember what the actual stat was. But in the last 3 times, this one included, that Ohio State has been to the national championship, it has been in the second, and they kind of flummoxed this a little bit, it was Urban's technically second eligible year, but every second year that that Ohio State has been to the national championship for the last 3 times, they've won. It was Urban Meyer's second eligible year, and then before that, they had the second year, and now this year for Ryan Day.
And in the college football playoff era, Alabama being number 1 has never been very good for them. They've never won the national championship in the college football playoff era as the number 1 seed.
The only one to do so at the number 1 seed is actually last year with LSU. So everything's pointing to Ohio State. What can I say? Maybe we'll all be right. Maybe we'll all be celebrating, or maybe sadness will take over. I'm not saying it's going to, but I'm just saying maybe.
To make the great state of Ohio proud.
Like I said on our last show, I just hope we're not depressed. So I hope that works, because it worked for us with the Clemson game.
I hope so too, buddy. I think this is going to be a really great game. I hope everybody enjoys this game. I'm going to enjoy this game. What else is there left to say? Go Bucks. OH.
I-O.
For all of us here at Score on Air, for the Buckeye Bros Show, Tailgate Edition, I want to thank you personally from Hot Wheels Travis Napper, to my co-host Alex Bryan, to our temporary, although I can call him a Buckeye Bro, he's a Buckeye Bro, but he's king of the hill, Ryan Hill.
Anytime.
What's that, Alex?
He's welcome on the show anytime.
I agree, except, sometimes he makes fun of me, so I don't know if that's true. Sometimes he's mean to me.
That's how we keep this relationship going.
You know, it is what it is. But thank you so much for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed the game. Hopefully it's a fun one. Like we said, go Bucks, OH, and we will see you all next time on the Buckeye Bro Show.